The first time I noticed her, I was staring at an old family photograph from my 8th birthday. At least, I thought it was an ordinary photograph. Then I saw the missing hand. A woman's hand. Half visible on the edge of the picture. Someone had clearly cut the rest of her out. I froze. The photo showed my father smiling behind my birthday cake. My mother standing beside me. My grandparents. My cousins. Everyone was there. Except the person whose hand remained. As if someone had deliberately erased her. And suddenly I couldn't stop wondering why. I had no idea that question would unravel a family secret buried for more than 20 years. A secret that would make me question everything I believed about the people who raised me. And eventually force me to confront a heartbreaking truth no one wanted me to know. My name is Emma Carter. And this is the story of the woman my family tried to erase. The discovery happened 3 months after my father's funeral. Losing him had left a hole in my life. He had always been my safe place. My biggest supporter. The person who called every Sunday. The person who never missed a birthday. The person who believed I could do anything. After the funeral, I spent weeks sorting through old family boxes. Photo albums. Letters. Home videos. Anything that made me feel close to him again. That's when I found the photograph. The one with the missing woman. At first I assumed it was accidental. Maybe the picture was damaged. Maybe it tore naturally. But then I found another one. And another. And another. Each photo contained traces of the same mystery woman. A shoulder. A hand. Part of a dress. A strand of dark hair. Always cropped. Always removed. Always erased. Not once. Not twice. Dozens of times. Someone had gone through extraordinary effort to make sure she disappeared. And that terrified me. I brought the photos to my mother. "Mom, who's this?" The color immediately drained from her face. For a brief moment I thought she might faint. Then she forced a smile. "No one. No one." The answer felt rehearsed. "Mom. It was a long time ago." "Who was she?" My mother stood up. "I don't want to discuss this." Then she left the room. Just like that. No explanation. No answers. Only more questions. And that was when I knew. The woman mattered. A lot. Over the next several weeks, I became obsessed. Every album revealed new clues. The mysterious woman appeared everywhere. Christmas gatherings. Family vacations. Birthday parties. Graduations. She seemed present during every major event of my childhood. Yet somehow I had no memory of her. None. It made no sense. How could someone appear in so many moments and leave no trace behind? Then I found the first receipt. Tucked inside an old cookbook. A wire transfer receipt. My father's name. A woman's name. Monthly payments. 4 years. My stomach dropped. I checked the dates. The transfers continued throughout my childhood. Throughout my teenage years. Even after I moved away. My hand started shaking. There was only one explanation that seemed possible. My father had been supporting another woman. Maybe another family. Maybe an affair. Maybe both. I hated myself for thinking it. But the evidence kept piling up. Every clue pointed in the same direction. And every new discovery hurt more than the last. A month later I found an old voicemail saved on my father's computer. The recording was nearly 15 years old. The audio crackled. Then a woman's voice spoke. Soft. Emotional. Heartbroken. "Thank you for helping me again. I don't know what I'd do without you." My chest tightened. Helping her again? Again? How many times had he helped her? Why was he hiding it? Why did nobody want me to know? I showed the recording to my cousin Sarah. Her reaction shocked me. She immediately looked away. As if she recognized the voice. Who is she? Sarah remained silent. Sarah. I can't tell you. The answer hit me like a punch. You know. She nodded slowly. My heart started racing. You've known all these years? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I promised. Promised who? She didn't answer. The secret was getting bigger. And everyone seemed involved. Everyone except me. The daughter. The person who should have known the truth. Then came the phone call. The one that changed everything. One evening my mother left her phone on the kitchen counter. A message appeared. Unknown number. Only 4 words. Is Emma asking questions? My blood ran cold. I stared at the screen. Seconds later another message arrived. She found the photos. My heart nearly stopped. The photos. They were talking about me. About the woman. About the secret. And suddenly I realized something horrifying. This wasn't just my father's secret. My entire family had been hiding something. For years. Maybe decades. And whatever the truth was, they were terrified I'd discover it. The message stayed on the screen for only a few seconds. But it was enough. Enough to confirm that my family wasn't simply hiding a painful memory. They were actively protecting a secret. A secret connected to the woman they had erased from every photograph. And somehow, everyone knew except me. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying every conversation. Every strange reaction. Every uncomfortable silence. My mother's refusal to answer. Sarah's tears. The hidden transfers. The mysterious voicemail. None of it felt accidental anymore. It felt coordinated. Like an entire family had agreed to tell the same lie. Or worse. To hide the same truth. The next morning I drove back to my childhood home. My mother was in the garden when I arrived. She looked tired. Older than I remembered. Grief had changed her. But so had fear. I could see it in her eyes. Mom, we need to talk. She immediately stiffened. Emma. No. I interrupted. Not this time. Her face fell. I placed the old photographs on the patio table. Then the transfer receipts. Then printed copies of the voicemail transcript. One by one. Like evidence in a trial. My mother's hands began trembling. Who was she? Silence. Mom. Still silence. The wind moved softly through the trees. Neither of us spoke. Then she whispered something I wasn't expecting. Your father loved her. My heart stopped. There it was. The confirmation I had feared. The betrayal. The secret affair. The second life. Everything suddenly seemed to make sense. I felt physically sick. You knew? Tears filled my mother's eyes. Yes. The answer shattered me. Not just because of my father. But because she had accepted it. Lived with it. Protected it. For decades. I stood up so quickly my chair nearly fell over. You let me spend my entire life believing we were a happy family. My mother began crying. Emma, please. How could you? She covered her face. But she still wouldn't tell me the truth. Not the whole truth. And that only convinced me I was right. My father had betrayed us. And everyone had helped hide it. For the next several days I couldn't think about anything else. I barely worked. Barely slept. Every memory of my father felt different now. Corrupted. Questionable. I hated that feeling. Because I loved him. Even after his death, I loved him. But love becomes complicated when trust disappears. A week later another clue appeared. This one came from my grandfather's attic. I was helping clear out old boxes when I found a small wooden chest tucked behind stacks of books. Inside were dozens of letters. Most were addressed to my father. All from the same woman. My hand shook as I opened the first envelope. The handwriting was elegant. Careful. Personal. My stomach tightened. I expected love letters. Confessions. Romance. Proof. Instead I found something strange. The first letter ended with these words. Thank you for giving me another chance to watch her grow. I frowned. Her? Who was her? I opened another letter. Then another. Each one became more confusing. The woman rarely talked about herself. Instead she wrote about someone else. Someone she missed terribly. Someone she loved deeply. Someone she wished she could see. Again and again, the same theme appeared. A daughter. A daughter she couldn't be with. A daughter she desperately wanted to know. My pulse quickened. I reread the letters. Then read them again. The affair theory suddenly felt less certain. But before I could make sense of it, something happened that pushed me back toward believing the worst. That evening Sarah called me. Her voice sounded nervous. Emma, please stop digging. I almost laughed. Seriously? I'm trying to protect you. Protect me from what? Silence. Then she whispered. The truth hurts. That answer made me furious. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. I gripped the phone tighter. If Dad had an affair, just say it. Sarah began crying. Actual crying. The sound stunned me. Because guilt sounds different from sadness. And what I heard wasn't guilt. It was heartbreak. Sarah. But she had already hung up. The next day I finally reached my breaking point. I gathered every piece of evidence. The photographs. The receipts. The letters. The voicemail. Everything. Then I invited my entire family to dinner. My mother. Sarah. My uncle David. My aunt Rebecca. Everyone. Nobody knew why. Until they arrived. The atmosphere felt tense from the beginning. People avoided eye contact. Conversations died quickly. Everyone seemed nervous. As if they already knew what was coming. Finally I stood. And spread the photographs across the dining table. The room instantly fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody even breathed. I looked around the room. At the people I trusted most. Then asked the question that had haunted me for months. Who was she? My uncle lowered his head. My aunt started crying. Sarah stared at the floor. And my mother looked completely broken. I felt anger building inside me. Tell me the truth. Nothing. Tell me. My voice echoed through the room. For several seconds nobody answered. Then my mother slowly stood. Her hands trembling. Tears streaming down her face. And finally said the words that changed everything. The woman in those photographs wasn't your father's secret. The room froze. I stared at her. Confused. What? She took a shaky breath. Then looked directly into my eyes. The woman everyone erased. Her voice cracked. Was your mother? The world stopped. Every sound disappeared. Every thought vanished. Nothing made sense anymore. Because the woman standing in front of me was my mother. The woman who raised me. The woman who tucked me into bed. The woman who sat through every school play. The woman who kissed my forehead when I was sick. How could the erased woman be my mother? I felt dizzy. That's impossible. My mother closed her eyes. Then whispered the sentence that shattered everything I believed about my life. No, Emma. A tear rolled down her cheek. I raised you. She looked toward the photographs. Then back at me. But I didn't give birth to you. And in that moment, I realized the family secret wasn't about my father at all. It was about me. I couldn't breathe. The room seemed to tilt around me. My mother's words echoed in my head over and over. I raised you, but I didn't give birth to you. Every person at the table looked devastated. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Devastated. As if they had spent years carrying a burden they never wanted me to carry. I stared at my mother. The woman I had called Mom for 32 years. The woman who taught me how to ride a bicycle. The woman who stayed awake all night when I had the flu. The woman who cried when I left for college. None of that could be fake. None of it. Yet somehow, she wasn't the woman in the photographs. I felt sick. Then who was she? My voice barely sounded like my own. Nobody answered immediately. The silence stretched across the room. Finally, my mother sat down. Her hands trembling. Her name was Caroline. The name meant nothing to me. And somehow that hurt even more. The woman had appeared in nearly every photograph of my childhood. Yet I had never even heard her name. Who was Caroline? Tears filled my mother's eyes. Then she said something I never expected. She was my sister. I froze. My aunt? I had an aunt? A biological aunt nobody ever mentioned? I looked around the room. Nobody disagreed. Nobody corrected her. Everyone simply cried. The secret was real. All of it. And it was bigger than I ever imagined. My Uncle David lowered his head. Caroline was your mother's younger sister. I couldn't process it. You erased your own sister from family photographs? My mother covered her face. The pain in her expression made my anger hesitate. Because people don't look like that when they're protecting a lie. They look like that when they're remembering a tragedy. Then my mother told me the truth. The entire truth. And every assumption I had made collapsed. 33 years earlier, Caroline had been 22 years old. Bright. Funny. Kind. The kind of person who made friends everywhere. She was also deeply in love with a young man named Daniel. They planned to get married. They planned to start a family. They planned an entire future together. Then Daniel died in a car accident. 3 weeks before the wedding. The loss destroyed her. For months she barely left her apartment. Barely spoke. Barely functioned. Then she discovered something unexpected. She was pregnant. With me. I sat frozen. Unable to move. Unable to speak. Unable to stop crying. My biological mother had lost the man she loved. Then found herself carrying his child. Carrying me. My chest tightened. The room felt smaller. Heavier. Heartbreaking. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Because what happened next changed everything. My mother took a shaky breath. Caroline wanted to keep you. I immediately looked up. What? More than anything. The answer stunned me. Because for months I had imagined abandonment. Rejection. A mother who didn't want me. Instead, I was hearing the exact opposite. My mother continued. She loved you before you were even born. A tear rolled down her cheek. She talked about you constantly. The room was silent. I could hear my own heartbeat. Then came the part that broke me. When I was 6 months old, Caroline was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. At first doctors were optimistic. Then they weren't. Treatments failed. The disease spread. The prognosis became worse. And worse. And worse. Until finally she understood the truth. She wasn't going to survive. I pressed both hands against my mouth, trying not to cry. Failing completely. She was terrified, my mother whispered. Not for herself. Another tear fell. For you. The room dissolved into quiet sobs. Sarah cried. My aunt cried. Even Uncle David wiped away tears. Because they all remembered. And I was hearing it for the first time. Caroline spent her final months fighting for one thing. Not her life. My future. She wanted certainty. Security. A family. People who would love me after she was gone. That's when she came to my parents. To my mother. To my father. And asked them to raise me. I felt my heart shatter. Not because she gave me away. Because she didn't. She entrusted me to people she loved. People she trusted. People she knew would protect me. My mother reached across the table. She chose us. I broke down completely. Years of assumptions. Months of suspicion. All gone. Replaced by a truth so painful and beautiful that I could barely hold it. Then I remembered the photographs. The cropped images. The erased face. The mystery that started everything. Why? I asked through tears. Why remove her? Nobody answered immediately. Then my mother finally explained. After Caroline died, my grandparents fell apart. Completely. The grief consumed them. Every photograph became a reminder. Every holiday hurt. Every birthday hurt. Every family gathering hurt. Seeing Caroline's face reopened the wound every single time. Eventually they began removing her from photographs. Not out of hatred. Not out of shame. But because they couldn't bear the pain. My grandmother started it. Then others followed. Little by little. Year after year. Until eventually Caroline disappeared from the albums. Not from memory. From sight. And over time, the family stopped talking about her. Because talking about her hurt too much. A silence formed. Then another. Then decades passed. And somehow the story was lost. Including to the person who deserved to know most. Me. My father wasn't having an affair. The transfers weren't secret payments. They were donations to a cancer foundation created in Caroline's name. The voicemail wasn't from a lover. It was from a former patient receiving support through the foundation. The hidden letters weren't romantic. They were letters Caroline wrote before she died. Letters meant for me. Letters my father couldn't bring himself to throw away. Everything I thought was evidence of betrayal had actually been evidence of love. The deepest kind of love. The kind that survives death. The kind that protects a child. The kind that sacrifices everything. 3 weeks later my mother gave me a small box. Inside were photographs nobody had ever shown me. Unedited photographs. Original photographs. And for the first time in my life, I saw Caroline. Really saw her. She had my eyes. My smile. My laugh. I knew it instantly. Tears streamed down my face as I held the pictures. One photo showed her holding me as a baby. Looking at me with pure love. Pure pride. Pure joy. On the back she had written 6 words. No matter what, she'll be loved. I cried harder than I ever had before. Because she was right. I had been loved. By her. By my parents. By my entire family. Even when they made mistakes. Even when they kept secrets. Love had been there the entire time. A few months later, my family and I visited Caroline's grave together. For the first time, nobody avoided her name. Nobody changed the subject. Nobody hid the photographs. We talked. We remembered. We laughed. We cried. And for the first time in decades, Caroline became part of the family again. Not a secret. Not a wound. Not someone erased. A daughter. A sister. A mother. My mother. As we prepared to leave, I placed one of the restored photographs beside her headstone. Then whispered the words I wished I could have said years ago. Thank you for finding me a family. The wind moved gently through the trees. And somehow, for the first time in my life, I felt whole. Because family isn't only about the people who give us life. It's about the people who spend their lives loving us. And sometimes the person everyone tried to erase turns out to be the reason your entire family existed in the first place.